everyone, this is Kristie with AG Takes Over. I'm glad you're here for today's Q&A video. I did one of these a while back when I hit 350 subscribers, but the number has more than doubled since then, so I figured some of you might have questions and I'd be happy to answer them, and you did. You had lots of questions. So I've tried to group them by category. I don't know how well I did. And if somebody has if more than one of you have asked the same question, I'm just gonna obviously answer it once and not repeat the question. So I'm gonna dive in because I kind of worry about this getting long. Anatrox117, if I mispronounce any of your usernames, I'm sorry, asks, how did my wife and I meet? By the way, I did say the questions can be doll related or not, so I'm happy to share that with you. I don't remember the first time we met. I was sober, that was not the issue. We are both sign language interpreters. I had just moved back to the United States from living in Mexico for several years, and I got a job at a local community college as a part-time interpreter, and one of the interpreters there hosted a prior to the semester starting get together. So I went, and every face was new to me. Apparently I met my wife there because she also worked at the college. She remembered me because I was like the new face, but it was a bit overwhelming to me and I didn't remember everybody's faces, so I didn't remember that. I do remember us working as an interpreting team at a different university, and there was an assignment that had a lot of downtime and we were kind of off to ourselves, and so we had the day to chat, and that's the meeting that I remember. And we started dating at an interpreting conference. Do we both have kids from previous relationships? Yes and no. She did not have any children. I had one child, but I conceived my child as a single mom through as a single person through artificial insemination. So it wasn't from a previous relationship, but I did come with a 14-year-old when we met. Did I get into doll collecting because of the kids, or was it a childhood collection that I wanted to start again? Neither, actually, and this addresses several people's questions. AG Muñeca asked about how I got into it. Christina Land asked that. Starry Eyes Chick asked that. So I actually do have a video that I've been meaning to post forever that goes into more depth about it, but I'm going to give you the very short version. My wife collected as a child. They weren't even really on my radar. My older daughter, she's 21 now, my older daughter's friend was into them, but I became a mom at a decently young age, and that was not my income bracket to be affording those dolls, especially pre all of the resale pages and everything. So she was into them as a kid. This was not even a topic of discussion when we got together. Fast forward to the pandemic, her dad drove down to visit and brought a couple tubs of her toys, and that he'd been saving forever because we're grown people with our own basement now, so take your stuff. And in there were her old dolls, and she was flooded with all the memories, and then quickly learned that there are adult collectors out there, and there were whole pages and communities and all that, and so that was, the rest is history for her. I just started as a confused spouse, and then a supportive spouse, and then obviously I have come along for the ride. But no, I was not a childhood collector, nor did we get into it for the kids. My younger kid certainly enjoys all of the stuff, but we didn't get into it for her or because of her. Moving down to the other question that AG Muñeca had for me, do you collect anything else? Yes, we do have some extensive Harry Potter collections. The only one that we display is our wand collection. I might put a picture in here somewhere. Our Harry Potter collecting has changed drastically from when we met and were kind of at the height of it so many years ago. As J.K. Rowling has continued to reveal her really messed up transphobic views. Yeah, but I was recently at an unofficial event for HP fans, and I won a lovely homemade wand to add to our collection. So the collection does still grow. It's just way slower and way different. Christina Land asked another question related to my wife, because we're both collectors, if any of you did not know that. She has the AGIG and I have the YouTube channel. Anyway, she asked, is it hard, they're all typed, which is why I keep looking down. Is it hard when your wife or you really likes an item and the other does not at all? That's an interesting question. And no, it's not hard at all, because we wisely have separate doll spending budgets. So it's really convenient when we both like the same thing, because then I only have to spend half of the money from my budget on it. So if we both like a doll, then we go halves on it. Or if we, both want an outfit, then we go halves on it. But there are things that she buys that I'm like, no, I would not. And my budget's smaller. Like, I set a smaller budget for myself. So I have to mind my money a little bit more. And so there will be things that she wants to get and I'm not into, or vice versa. I really like all the blue and white nautical looking striped outfits, and she's like, okay, go for it, out of my budget. So yeah, fortunately, because we have separate budgets, it's not hard at all. The next set of questions is just from two different people related to my profession, so I'll address those. Pretty Pioneer asks a few questions. What made you want to become an interpreter for the deaf? How did your sign language journey start? And does anyone else in your family sign? And then Chris K asked, what inspired you to become an ASL interpreter and when did you first learn? So I can answer all of these together. I started learning sign language in high school. I took a 9-week evening class. It was filled with adult learners. It was like a community leisure learning class. But I went in the evenings after high school and everything. And we just learned lists, not grammar, not culture. It was taught by a hearing person who was a church interpreter. And looking back and having since taught ASL, it was not an amazing class, but it was enough to whet my appetite for it. And I like languages. I am fluent in Spanish, and I have studied Mexican Sign Language and Italian and French for 7 years, and Nicaraguan Sign Language. So I really like languages. So I have a degree, I have a sign language interpreting degree and national certifications and whatnot. Does anyone else from my family sign? My wife. My daughters recognize minimal amounts of sign, but yeah, my wife is an interpreter, so. Yep. The next questions, I don't know. I couldn't really categorize them because then they all just start being about dolls, so let's just dive into those. So AG Wonder Studio asks, how many dolls do you have? And the answer is just over 70. They also asked, do I have any Pleasant Company dolls? Yes, only 2. Josefina from my wife's childhood, and Kennedy, who was, I believe, originally a JLY3, but she's since been re-wigged and had an eye swap. So those 2 are Pleasant Company. We've had several over the time that we've been collecting, but currently those are the only 2. What's my favorite American Girl doll? Oh my gosh. People always ask this. I don't have a favorite. And I don't say this in a weird, I'm not equating dolls to my children at all. Let me be perfectly clear about that, because I find that offensive. But it is like asking a parent, who's your favorite kid? I don't have favorites. I like these dolls. I have answered in the past, so I'm just going to stick with this, that Gabriella is my favorite of my collection. I don't know that I have a favorite of all of the dolls that American Girl has put out. What's my dream American Girl doll? Okay, I'm choosing to read this as I get to make one that doesn't yet exist, not like my dream of the ones that they make. That's what I'm choosing to read this as. In that case, I want another named Addie mold doll. Fun, messed up fact, Addie came out 4 years before Josefina. Josefina has there have since been 11 named dolls with the Josefina face mold. Addie came out first. There has never been another named doll with the Addie mold. So if I got to design a doll for American Girl to sell, I want another named Addie mold. It's about time. Maybe a Girl of the Year. She could have freckles. Of any of the dolls that they've done with the Addie mold, they've never given them freckles, and they seem to have like done away with freckles. Out of the whole Truly Me revamp, there's one doll that has freckles. Freckles are way more commonplace than that, people. So yeah, she'd have freckles and brown eyes, and I'm not sure about the hair, no bottom lashes, and no expensive hobby in her story. Wouldn't that be refreshing? That'd be like Lindsay. Just, she gets to be a kid. Who was my first American Girl doll? Sydney. She's a Truly Me 55. My wife had been back into collecting for not too long, and we got a lot that she bought a lot to keep some of the things and was planning on reselling the 2 dolls that came with it, or 2 or 3 dolls that came with it. And I commented that Truly Me 55 looked very much like I did as a child. And she decided that I needed to keep that doll and have my own. And that was the start of me becoming a collector. Other than that, I was just an observer. Aria Jana asks, what's your least favorite doll? And I clarified and said, do you mean from our personal collection, or like that AG has ever made? And she said, yeah, both, sure. I'm sorry, and I don't even know the gender of this person. They said, yeah, both, sure. So from our collection, I'm sorry if this is a doll you like. I really, possibly Maritza. I'm going to very quickly say why. I think that her eyelashes, I don't like them. Fortunately, Grace gave me the green light and we removed the bottom lashes from her, from our Maritza. But you can barely see her teeth. Like, from many angles, you can't even see that she has teeth, and for some reason, I'm not a fan of that. And she has a very orange undertone that I just don't see occurring in actual people. So I don't love that. Like, if the tone could have been, it's like 79, like very orangey undertones, and I'm just not a fan. Of all of AG's dolls ever, maybe number 6, not the expensive first run that everybody wants, but the blonde green-eyed classic mold. I don't like the electric green eyes, and I'm not a big fan of the pie bangs. I don't know. I don't have any hate for that doll. I just, like, we got her once in a lot. No, twice in lots, and we were like, sell. We do not need her. Cami asks, how many dolls do I have? Okay, I already answered that one. Knitting with Lisa asks, which is my favorite doll and why? And I did answer Gabriella, but I'll expand on the why. In my head, she's the underdog. Like, AG did that doll so wrong. Anybody who knows the history and has watched videos of, Tenny and her release and the size of her collection, and Gabriella and the circumstances surrounding her collection and release and everything, kind of can figure out there was probably something fishy going on there. But so in my head, she's the underdog because of how badly she was handled by AG, but also in her stories, people underestimated her regularly because of her stutter. But yeah, in her books and as a doll, she's a badass. She was also the very first American Girl doll that I bought for myself. And I'm biased, and I think that I personally have one of the prettiest Gabriellas on the planet. So, yeah. But it's a hard one for me to pick. Theodore Luderman asks, I hate to be that guy, but here it goes. Do you have 1 or 2 American Girls that you can never live without? Like, if there was a fire and everybody else was safe and they were set by a window that you could pop open and grab from the outside, soon it will get hurt. What one would it be, or what 2 would it be, and why? First of all, there's no doll I can't live without. They bring me lots of joy, but they're ultimately things. That said, if I had to pick just 2, I'm gonna go with 2, because if you said 1 or 2, I'm picking 2. It wouldn't necessarily even be the ones I like most. It might be more about who among my favorites would be harder to replace. And in that case, Journey, who's our Truly Me 55, and one of our Sonali mold CYOs with the older face mold because that would be harder to replace, but I have yet to narrow it down because we have a few that are stunningly gorgeous. So, all right, Theodore Luderman also asked, do you have all your American Girl dolls and accessories and everything all together, or are there a few favorites that you have kind of closer to you, like in your bedroom or out in the living room or someplace? The dolls aren't all together, but that's more a space issue than a priority issue. We do have a couple that we mostly keep stored at this point. Kennedy and Josefina, my wife's childhood dolls, and Kaya stays stored quite a bit. Accessories aren't all in the same room, but that's partly a space consideration, also a seasonal issue because I have a very small doll room, as I've mentioned in other videos, and I don't want to take up space year-round with Christmas things, for example. Lorraine Marliese, I don't know, it looks Italian to me, asks, how do you decide which dolls to rehome, and do you ever regret letting one of them go? That's an excellent question, because we have sold many dolls. So 70 is what we have, but we've sold probably that many. If Grace bought a doll on her own, she gets to make that decision at any time. I'm sure if I said, no, you bought that doll, but I really like her, could we keep her around for a little longer? I'm sure she would. Vice versa. If I bought a doll on my own, out of my budget, I get to decide anytime that I want it to go. But many of our dolls are joint purchases, so we do have to be in agreement on those. We think about who we feel we aren't connecting to, mostly. Like, I really wanted a Truly Me 21, and I got one for cheap locally, and I was so excited, and we named her Poppy. And then I realized that a lot of the classic molds have this spot right here that looks, I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes the way the shadows catch or something, it just makes them look a little mean, like a little pitchy. So I saw that in her face, and then I couldn't unsee it, and I just didn't connect to her because of that. It's a weird thing. Ivies, we've gone through 3 because we weren't connecting, and we wanted that doll. It was like each time, this is not the one. Yes, we want an Ivy, but this is not the one. And to this day, I'm not the most attached to Ivy, but so she may go. She's on the back burner. That's kind of how our brain works, because we don't tend to make those impulse sales. And then other dolls like Isabel and Tenny, I really liked our Isabel, like a lot, but our collection has gotten so big that we kind of get to the point where it's like, if we want to bring in more dolls, we have to be willing to shrink this collection somehow to make space. And at that point, you're kind of looking at who brings what to your collection, and you're looking at your collection as a whole, not just the individual dolls. And so Isabel and Tenny didn't bring as much of certain things that we're looking for to our collection. So they had to go. Actually, our Tenny is still for sale if anyone is interested. Lisbeth Soda asks, why do I shy away from historical dolls and outfits? I know, Lisbeth, that you do like historicals, and you feel like maybe I don't know, that I don't give them much attention. I don't feel that we shy away from historical dolls. We have 14 of the 23 historicals and best friends that AG has ever made. So of the dolls, we have plenty, and we used to have 3 additional ones that we've sold. I don't gravitate toward their wardrobes for several factors. The cost of collecting their outfits, like the more historical ones that were set further back in history, most of their collections are retired, so they get very pricey. Or well-made ones on Etsy that are set in their time periods are also very pricey. So also, I like being able to take pictures of them in their, like in a room, in a space, and it's a lot harder to recreate a historically accurate doll space with miniature, 1/3 scale things. It's harder. And if I were doing that for several different time periods, like I'd have to pick maybe 3 dolls and focus on it, and that would be my collection. And that is a perfectly acceptable way to approach collecting. It's just not the one that appeals most to me. Starry Eyes Chick asked, do I read any of the AG books? What's my favorite AG book or book series? Yes. So far I've read 37 of them. They put out a lot more. I know that's not a big number, but yeah, I have read some. I'm hoping to read more this year. I think my favorite singular book is Lindsay's, and I've said this many times. It is so refreshing to read a story that doesn't have any major problem or major expensive hobby. So I just really, it's very a la Junie B. Jones, if you're familiar with that series, and I find it very endearing. I wish that Lindsay had more books. And then favorite series, I think Melody's collection is probably my favorite of the collections that I've read in their entirety. Irish C. Dollies asks, what is my dream custom? I thought about this, and I could not come up with a good answer, so I really apologize. I'm going to defer back to the answer of what's my favorite American Girl doll, or what's my dream American Girl doll, and where I said like an Addie mold with freckles and brown eyes, and I'm still not sure about hair, a naturally occurring texture, but I don't know, length or whatever. I'm gonna just go with that same answer because I really couldn't think of, in terms of customs, what would be my dream. Irish C. Dollies also asks, are you finding views low or normal at the minute? For videos, when I put out videos. They're all over the place. I don't know. I've given up trying to predict. I do look at the YouTube analytics, but I had already decided that I'm going to make what I want to make. And the only thing that I do in terms of like thinking about the numbers is I want a clean thumbnail, and I want a clean video thumbnail, and I want to post them on the days when I know my audience is most active. But beyond that, I'm just putting out what I want to contribute to the community, and sometimes the views take off and sometimes they fall flat. I don't know. What is my favorite kind of video to make? Irish C. Dollies, you ask really good questions. I can't answer that. I really like unboxing Etsy things more than unboxing AG things, in one sense, because with Etsy things you're getting to shout out small business owners. But I really like unboxing AG things, especially if they're newer, because I have the luxury of being close to a store and getting things kind of early for now. And I try to give reviews that might add some information that other people haven't covered. They're probably unboxing new AG things is my favorite. I really like dressing my dolls. That's one of my favorite things to do with them. I really like decorating the dollhouse. I like doing tutorials. A lot of the things that are my favorites to make are not the most popular ones. Like, the most popular ones have been see all three of my dolls, all three of my doll houses, the things that we bought from a hoarder, and probably that was just because I used the word hoarder. I wasn't trying to use it for clickbait. If you watch the video, you'll know that. But I think that probably people were curious because of that. And then things that are unboxings or store footage right when a new doll comes out and a new collection comes out, those tend to do well. But I don't know. I don't have a favorite. I really like every type of video that I make, or I wouldn't make it. Ambrosia's Dollhouse asks, and I think this is the last person, as a collector, as an avid AG collector, where do you see the future of AG heading? Your thoughts on the store closures, new doll lines, etc. This is such a good question. I did type a little bit of bullet points so that I don't ramble too much. I could probably make a whole video just addressing this and making some amateur predictions, and maybe I will. But a few thoughts that immediately came to me when I read this question were, I think they'll continue to do collabs in order to try to draw in more customers who weren't already AG customers. Once they have enough data to tell them whether that is paying off in the long run, then we'll get to see if collabs are around for good. I see them continuing to copy customizers, or at least their interpretation of what customizers do in terms of hair color, lashes, etc. Again, they'll do it until they have enough data to tell them whether going in that direction was a good call or not. If it boosts sales, we'll obviously see more of that. If not, who knows what their next approach would be. I think they'll continue to flip back and forth between two very different customer demographics and trying to satisfy, placate two different customer demographics. So Claudie got no hype and was set in an older period of history, and that was the black doll, but they, trying to appeal to people who wanted a black doll with a name and a story. Then, knowing that they have a lot of conservative customers and trying to appeal to nostalgia and what is trending right now, they came out with the Hoffman twins and way hyped that up. So I think we'll see them flip back and forth. Even with, they're doing the Harry Potter collab, which, I'm not gonna make this video about that, but they're doing the Harry Potter collab and has a body image book with its really well done content. So I think we're gonna continue to see like some contradictions or some flip flopping, a la politician. I have no idea. Oh, I do see policies continuing to become less customer friendly, like shorter return windows, stricter return policies, higher thresholds for free shipping. I don't think that they're going to reverse decision on that. Maybe I'm wrong. That's just my gut. And I have no idea what will become of the CYO line. I'm fascinated to see where that goes. I really don't have any gut feeling on it, and I just want to know. I would love to give that question more thought, but those were my initial thoughts. And those were all the questions. So I'll do this again at some point in the future. I'm not going to do these like every month, but when the desire arises, then I'll ask you for new questions, and I'll be happy to answer those too. All right.